All right. Hello, Sarah. Welcome to the Bloom and Grow Show. I'm so excited to have you today. How's it going in North Carolina today?
Hey, it's good. Thank you, Amber, for having me. It's unseasonably cold here
Yes.
but it's okay because as I told you before we started recording, I'm like kind of laid up in my house with a sprained ankle, so just happy to be hanging out and have somebody to chat with.
I know. I mean, that's like the worst when it's like nice, where it's nice weather and you can't be out there. So like this is the next
Yeah.
best thing that you can do right now,
Yeah.
right? Well, awesome. Well, I want to, I know you, so I first should tell the audience that's listening right now is that Sarah and I know each other through Digital Insiders Mastermind. So Julie Chanel is our coach, and we've both been in the program for a few years, right? How long have you been in the program?
3 years. Yep.
3 years.
3
Okay, I
years.
feel like we kind of started around the same time because I think
Yeah.
I'm on year three too, and we have connected multiple times at the live event that happens as part of Julie's mastermind. And so Julie hosts an in-person component about twice a year, one in the fall and one in the summertime. And we were just chatting in Miami in November, and I was masterminding on, teaching retreats and, wondering what people like, what was holding them back for maybe adding this as a component in their business. And Sarah, who's been a student in my program, Invite and Delight, was telling me about her experiences with hosting retreats and whatnot. And I was like, Sarah, I need to have you on the show for twofold. I was like, one, I want you to come, talk about how it's been implementing retreats and adding that as a part of your business, but also all of the amazing things that you're doing in your business with VIP days. And there's just so much like a wealth of knowledge that you have and that you teach on. So let me go ahead and have you officially introduce yourself, and then we can go from there.
Okay, great. Yeah, there's like so much packed into that. My name is Sarah Masci. I have been an online business owner for almost 20 years now. I started in 2005, tried out a whole bunch of different things for the first 5 years. My oldest son was a newborn, just trying to figure out a way to like work from home and make some money so I didn't have to go to that like soul sucking corporate job and the same thing that we're all trying to escape in our online businesses. I did that for a few years. Eventually, after about 5 years of trying different things, I landed on branding and web design really as a thing that lit me up and that I was good at. And I pretty much taught myself everything I know about branding and web design to this day, but really grew my business in that niche for many, many years. So that was like around 2010 until just a few years ago that I was primarily doing branding and web design in my business. When I was a designer in 2016, I hired my first business coach and we did some coaching for a few months. And then shortly after we were working together, she shared that she was hosting a retreat in Breckenridge, Colorado. And this was 2016. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go. I need to be a part of this. And so I went, and it was like one of the most transformational points in my business, just as far as like, I had so many aha moments being in that on that retreat that I came back from Colorado with so many ideas. And the first one being to run a 5-day free challenge. I had never done any digital marketing, anything in my life, really. I had
Yeah.
just been a designer. And so that free challenge that I got the idea on the retreat, being surrounded by like minded women who were like supporting me and encouraging me and lifting me up, that was the the thing. It was like the thing that changed my business and kind of shifted everything for me from that point forward. I became consistently booked out in my design business to the point that had so many clients that I needed to figure out a new process.
Oh,
And
what a
it took
great
me two
win.
more years. That's when I landed on switching my whole business model over to VIP days or day rates. And so that was 2018. I did that in my business for 4 years. And now all I really do is teach other done for you service providers how I did all of that, how it all happened. And then my highest level clients are with me in a higher level mastermind, which includes retreats. So that's kind of like the whole big picture of everything.
I love it. No, and I think that like really laid the land because I feel like we can go in so many different directions now.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
like so first thing I want to point out to you was like I feel like I had one of those similar experiences or I have one every single time I attend a retreat or an in-person event, right? Like you leave with these journals and
Hmm.
they're filled with these ideas and these notes and like all this feedback and like all these things that you now get to walk away with. And I actually have been cleaning out my office. We're doing like a renovation here. And I keep coming across all these old journals that are filled with all these dreams and hopes and mapping out frameworks and all these things. I'm like curious, like, are you the same thing? Like, do you have like a bunch of those notebooks
Yeah.
like that?
You can see behind me. This is like all of my work journals are in this cabinet. And yeah, I was cleaning out one day and I'm like, oh my gosh, like look at this is 2014. This is what I was dreaming of. And
Yes.
of course, like, all these years later, we've reached those goals and we've like had those milestones that we were only dreaming of at some of those earlier events
Yeah.
and retreats. And so yeah, it's crazy.
Like we forget about it. Like I think honestly too. I know like even Facebook memories popped up for me the other day. That was something from like maybe 10 or 13 years ago. And it was me sharing about something from Stationery Academy. This was like an event that was a catalyst for me that many years ago, right? And
Mhm.
in it, I was like kind of vague Facebooking, like, oh, I'm making, making a big major step towards one of those things that I spoke about with the other attendees and my new best friends at Stationery Academy. And all the people in the comments were like cheering me on. Like these are just old people
Mhm.
from my past, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's been so fun seeing you do that. And I just like, I was so grateful and filled with such gratitude of reading that former version of me, of these people who were part of my lives at that time, who were sitting in the room when these like dreams like were first made that long ago at a live event.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that about Facebook. Like, no, I don't. Used to post so much business stuff on my Facebook page all the time, and I know that was a big reason why my business grew the way it did because I was so visible and so actively posting.
Yeah.
Um, I don't do it quite as much anymore, but when those memories come up, I'm like, I need to be posting more now because I want these memories in 10 years. I want to
Yes.
remember what was I doing in 2024, not just 2014 and
Yes.
2008 or whatever. But yeah, I
I
love it.
think us people who are like natural memory keepers were like that. Like, cause it, like you just said, like in the beginning, I have so much documentation of my early years of my business and the places I traveled and the things that, I wrote very openly about it. And
Yeah.
then we pulled back at some point and now we're missing out on documenting all of those things,
Yes,
like I have a
exactly.
couple of reels that are in draft form right now that are from travels like when we were in Miami together, when I was in New Hampshire this past summer as well. They're like half finished recaps of my weekends at these events, and I've never published them. And I keep telling myself, I
Oh,
need to just get them out there just so they're there.
yeah. But then you get to the point where you're like, well, maybe it's too late. Maybe I shouldn't post it. And then you overthink everything.
Yeah.
That's how I am. I'm like overthinking everything right
Yeah.
now. So.
Yeah. And then, like, whenever I open the app, it like yells at me, you have 1.5 gigabytes sitting in drafts that you could free up of
Yeah.
space. And I'm like, oh, sorry. Well, tell me about Breckenridge, okay? Because that's where you host your retreat now, right? So, like, was
Yeah.
that very first retreat like the inspiration on why you've decided to host there as well as that location? What's that like there?
Yeah, exactly. So that first retreat in 2016 was in Breckenridge. There was 10 women. We were in one house for 4 days. We did a lot of like business growth and brainstorming and masterminding, but we also did a lot of adventure. We went whitewater rafting, we went stand up paddleboarding, we went hiking, we did stuff like that. And I just remember thinking it was such a great balance for me of like work and fun. And rewind back to 2022 and I felt like business was no longer fun. I was just like, we're just working all the time. We were just coming out of the pandemic and we were all
Mhm.
just kind of in this funk. And so I was like, 2023 is the year to get more fun back in our business. Like we're doing this so that we can live a life that we love and have do all the things we want to do. And so I thought to myself, well, like my family life is a little crazy with 4 kids and my husband's job. And so, like, I'm not able to just take them all out of school and go do things that I want to do, but I could do it in my business, and I could have
Yes.
like these fun adventures in my business and bring other women with me who are also in the same situation. And so I announced it in December of 2022 that I was going to host a retreat for 10 women in Breckenridge in June of 2023. And we had a lot of interest like right away. I filled it pretty quickly. And then I spent, and that's when I was going through Invite and Delight, and I was like going through everything and I just wanted to make it. I remember thinking, like, I need to make this the best. It just needs to be the best experience. And all the little details are so important. And you covered all of that, which I'm so grateful that I had that as like a
Right.
resource. Even like the emails and stuff, like to get people interested, that was really helpful. But so then we did the retreat, and we actually ended up staying at the exact same house that my retreat was 6 years ago or 7 years ago.
I have like goosebumps right now. How
Yeah.
amazing is that?
Yeah. Because it was just like the perfect house. It fit everyone perfect. The thing with like going to like Airbnbs with a mastermind is that it's so hard to find a house that has the right number of adult beds, right? Like
Yes.
it's like it sleeps 10, but there's really only 3 queen size beds and then 6 bunk beds. And so it's really
Right.
hard to like get that to work out for, a group of adults. So yeah, this house was just perfect. And so we did some of the same things that I did all those years ago.
Mhm.
And it was just an awesome experience. So this year we're going to Lake Tahoe in June.
I
So we're
love
not
Tahoe too.
Yeah, so we're not doing Breckenridge again. I was like, we might as well switch it up. We might as well try
Yeah.
different places. And so in the fall, we stayed closer to my home. We went to Asheville because it's a 2 hour drive for me. And then in June, we're going to go to Lake Tahoe. And now I'm already like thinking about where are we going to go next? Like, where's the next one going to be? And I'm thinking I want to do something a little bit more like tropical or beachy.
Mhm.
I'm not sure yet.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, amazing destinations. And when you were talking about earlier how you did some of those adventure activities like the paddle boarding or rafting and those sorts of things, like, man, you're a woman after my own heart because like if I can go to a place where I can like do business stuff like at part of the time and then get to do those activities too.
Yeah.
I think like you made the great point of hey, I can't always do these things in my day to day life experience or with my family, but I can make it happen over my business. And that's so true that you can do that and really like kind of curate your own experience to make
Yeah.
sure that your attendees are going to love it, but really you're going to love it too. And
Yeah.
like helping like lead them on those things.
Well, yeah, I mean, for me, I just had such a great experience that first one that I went on as an attendee. And I was like, I'm just going to recreate that experience for other people. And of course, they loved it. And, many of the people that were there have continued and are going on these other ones with us. So,
Yeah. How
yeah, yeah.
fun. Well, tell me about how does it actually work? So the people who register for these retreats, they're already current clients of yours, right? They're in maybe a mastermind program.
Yeah. So the way I
Okay.
have it kind of set up is that it took me a while to kind of figure out the best format for this. Like, do they come to the retreat and get the mastermind, or do they join the mastermind and get the retreat? Do I make it all one price? And so what I found was that it works best to have people join the mastermind first as a
Yep.
standalone mastermind, and then offer the retreat to anyone in the mastermind for an additional cost.
Yes.
But I have to like, it's a little tricky because I have to get a head count, at least 6 months in advance so that I can start looking for the right place. Right. It's
Yeah.
so different if we're going to have 6 people versus 10 people versus 14 people. And
Yeah.
so it gets a little kind of tricky trying to figure out those kind of details. But yeah, I just kind of like two of our mastermind clients are out of the country. Well, we have a bunch in Canada, but then we have South Africa, Australia, New Zealand. And so it's not fair to make them pay that all inclusive price that includes a retreat if it's
Yeah. And they
really not
can't attend
realistic
it.
for them to come.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I found that the same way. So in my Coterie Mastermind, that's how I figured out like it works best too, because so
Yeah.
many would want to join the mastermind program, but they're like, I don't know what the dates are. So I'm not interested in the whole program because I don't know if I can make that
Yep.
retreat. Like there's so many, so it made it so much easier to be like, no, this is the standalone program, and then here's the incentive. Like if you are an active member, you can come to the retreat. And then I do a thing where I allow alumni to come back. So they pay a different rate than those who are current active members in the mastermind. But we have a large grouping of alumni that come back every year and join and kind of basically get that extra touch point with me. And I already
So
know they're a good fit for the
the
group.
alumni come to the retreat, but they're not actually in the master. Oh, I like that.
Correct. And so it kind of gives like a really good diversified audience. Like you have the people who already know each other in the mastermind, but then they get these outside perspectives. But I've already coached them in some
Yep.
capacity. So I already know them in their business. It's not like, I'm going in blind with any of my attendees and things like that. So,
Yeah.
but there is a different in rate. And so there's more of an incentive if you're an active member, you get a preferred rate versus an alumni.
Right. I love that. And actually, I mean, I think about some of our alumni from last year who didn't keep going. They already know a lot of the people that are in the mastermind
Yeah.
anyway, because they were all in together at one point, and then it just
Yeah.
slowly kind of shifts. A few people leave, a few new people join, and it's just kind of been like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it becomes like they always tell me, they're like, they love this annual touch point. They may have outgrown my coaching or maybe they've pivoted in their businesses, but they know that every year they want to go down because we do it in Seaside, Florida. So if you ever want to do it down there, I've got all the details. So you can let
Okay.
me know for something warm. Anyway, so they always know that that's like what they plan on doing and coming. But I can hear you on having to wait and or having to know in advance of what accommodations you need, because different markets of where you're renting the house, like there's limited availability sometime, and
Yeah.
like you're not as flexible sometimes. What I have done in the Seaside area, because it has such a large inventory of homes, I mean, it's just like that's what the whole market is in this particular area, that I can wait longer and rent the house much closer to the actual date. And then I can make sure I'm not overbooking, right? Like I'm having a bunch of wasted rooms and things like that. But I
Mhm.
know that's not the case for every market, that, you're limited
Yeah.
on rentals.
Are you
Yeah.
guys going? Do you guys go to the same place every year to Seaside?
We go to the same area. So there's a couple of different beaches along a highway called 30A. But they're
Mhm.
all within like maybe like 10 to 15 minutes of each other. But I've only stayed in one house twice, but all the other ones have all been different houses every single time. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I've been kind of thinking about toying around with should I right now we're doing 2 a year.
Hmm.
And I love the excitement of trying new places and going to totally new destinations, but it does make it more challenging to figure out the accommodations and the food and the activities and like all of the things every single
Yeah.
time you're figuring it out new. So I've
Yes.
thought about like maybe going back to the same place twice, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It
I
was
mean,
really nice going to Asheville because it was closer to home for me and it was just a
yeah.
lot easier for me to coordinate. I could drive, so I could bring my car full of stuff. I didn't have to worry
Yes.
about taking, multiple suitcases on the plane
Suitcase.
with
That's
swag and
me.
all of the things. Yeah.
I'm flying with all these giant, large duffel bags full of, drink vessels and
Yeah.
sweatshirts and like all the goodies and stuff that are
Yeah.
going in it. Yeah. Yeah. I always say, I'm like, okay, I'm going to come home empty. Like these bags will be empty by the time I get home, but somehow I always end up bringing something back.
Right. Right. Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's fun. It's so much fun to bring all that stuff.
Yes. Well, tell me a little bit about what the format looks like at your retreat. Like, what do you like to have as part of it? I know you have obviously some activities that are kind of
Yep.
unique to the destination, but what does the content look like that you guys are working on? What do the days kind of look like?
Yeah, it's actually been pretty much the same every time. So we usually arrive on a Tuesday afternoon. So we have our Tuesday evening, kind of our housewarming dinner, hosted dinner, and so that's really nice to have right at the house. And then we don't have I don't do any specific like coaching content. I don't give new content or share new
Mhm.
content. The entire week is all about them and hot seating each person that's there,
Yeah.
and every person gets at least an hour or more of all eyes on them, hot seat where, the whole group is, we're all together and we're all just focused on helping them with the decisions that they need to make in their business and what are their next steps and kind of, what are their challenges and what are they going for. So we do that.
Yeah.
Everyone gets an hour. And if you think about it, there's 10 people. So that's 10
Yeah.
hours of hot seating, which adds up
Yeah.
quickly because we like to get outside and go hiking and go horseback riding and go do all of those things. So what we usually do are like 2 to 3 hour blocks in the morning between
Hmm.
breakfast and lunch, where 2 or 3 people will get a hot seat. And then we have our afternoons free to go out and do the fun stuff. So it's really like Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, Friday morning are those hot seat blocks. And then the great thing about it is, like, we're off doing activities all afternoon and in the evening, but we're still talking about whatever was
Yeah.
talked about that morning because we want to keep talking about it. We're excited about it. And that's the beauty of a business mastermind with a bunch of
Yeah.
women who are all on the same page and supporting each other. So that hot seat kind of carries through the whole week. And so then we
Yes.
also do, just to add a little bit more context. So we do our afternoon activities. We do dinners at the house, usually 2 nights, and then we do 2 nights where we go out and just kind of hit up the town and find some restaurants or bars or whatever to hang out. Yeah, and we just do catered breakfast and lunch every day, and yeah, it's pretty low key catered. Everything's like
Yeah.
available to pick on, snack on, and yeah, it's worked out really well.
Oh, I love that. And for those that are listening, who haven't experienced a hot seat like session before, I know you and I both agree on this. Like, they are in small group settings, they are like one of the most powerful things that you can do for your attendees, to get like that laser focused attention, to get the whole peer group. And the added side benefit is that even if you're listening and you're not the one in the hot seat, you are writing so many notes down because you're getting ideas as it's happening too. Like,
Yeah.
it's like a win for everybody involved.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, as the host of the retreat, I'm not taking notes. I'm more just focused on all of what, everybody's talking about. But it's crazy. You're right. You look around and everybody's just like notes, 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 even when it's not their hot seat. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
great.
love that. Are you finding that your customers or your clients that are in the mastermind program that come to the retreat, do they have greater success in the program? Like, or greater
Um,
success in their businesses?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because this current mastermind, I've run previous masterminds before, but the current one I'm running now started in January of 2023. So we're a little over a year into it at the time of recording. And the people who have been with me since the beginning are like, just while I was waiting for you, while we were waiting to get on this call, like, I was voxing with them, and it's like wins, wins, wins. So many wins are happening. And
Yeah,
takes time. Like, those, like, you're not going to see those wins, in month 1, month 2, month 3 of a mastermind. But if you stay consistent, you stay focused, you stay in community with those people, like your peers, it
yeah.
happens. And it's like all of a sudden, like, all of this magic is starting to unfold. And yeah, it's been great to see how much they've grown from a year and a half ago to where they are now.
In doing that, yeah. I was
Yeah.
curious when I was asking the question too about, like, if you see greater success in those that come to the in-person events, like within your coaching programs. I know that's something that I have seen happen a lot. Like, because I find that the clients with me that have, like, they're just more in depth, I think, in the
Mm,
coaching relationship and the client relationship when they do attend to the in-person
yeah.
ones, like, because they get like you were just saying, those personal connections.
Yep.
Like, you can't always do that sometimes over Zoom or Voxer and things like that. You need to like solidify those relationships sometimes in person.
Yeah. So to answer that question, last year it was mastermind and retreat. You did both.
Mhm.
And so everyone that was in the mastermind came on the retreat
Oh, okay,
in
so it was
June. And
even.
then a few people left and a few new people joined, and they all came on the retreat. So I think out of 13 people last year, we did have one person who could not attend the retreat. Um, and so it was just an unfortunate situation. She was supposed to come and
Yeah.
she couldn't. Um, she'll be on the next one because she realized, she knows
Yeah.
how
The
valuable it is.
FOMO.
Yeah, yeah. This one that I'm planning in Lake Tahoe is actually the first one where we only have about 50% of the people coming. So it will be
Hmm.
interesting. I'll let you know
Yeah.
if what I
I know,
notice.
I know. It will be
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. And you were definitely in a unique position where it was 100%. It made sense when it was attached, but
Right.
sometimes people also don't make it a commit, like make a priority to attend. They have other things that are going on in their
Right.
life. And
Right.
like you said, you also like, it's hard when you're the host, when you're like, they're going to feel FOMO. You're like, no, you really should come. You should really
Yeah.
try to move
Well,
heaven and earth because I think this is going to be a big deal.
and you've got those people who have never been on a retreat before, and so they might feel like, oh, I'm too introverted. I can't go on a retreat. It'll be
Yes.
too uncomfortable for me. And you're just like, you don't know what you're missing. Like, you just kind of want to be like, but it's so good. It's going to be so great. It's not what you're thinking. It's not like a big conference. We're not all sitting around
Yeah.
conference tables, and it's such a different experience. And so I really try to help my audience and my clients understand really how powerful that in-person experience is.
Yeah. I'm curious if it has hosting retreats like surprised you in any way, like surprised or delighted you, like you didn't expect, to happen as like a side benefit to it all.
I don't think it's surprised. I think I knew going into it that it was going to be that I was going to love it, and I did. I mean, I do love it. It's one of my favorite things that I do in my business. I look forward to it twice a year. The planning has definitely not been as fun. Like the first one was
Mhm.
fun, but the past two have been much more complicated for me to plan and a little bit more stressful. Just with
Mhm.
people like some people are coming and then they're not coming, and then it's like just trying to find
Yeah.
the accommodations can be stressful. What was I going to say? Oh, the other thing, I will say this, I don't know if this is like kind of what you mean, but as a host of them, when you're hosting a retreat like this in a small house and it's just you as like the coach and then all of your clients are with you, what I noticed at the last one was, and I'd noticed this the first time too, but I really picked up on it the second one, is that you really should think about bringing like almost like an assistant with you to help with
Oh yeah.
all of the, when you pack up an Airbnb and you have
100%.
to clean and make sure all the dishes are put away and make sure everything, all the garbages are empty. And you're trying to provide this like elevated experience for your clients. So you don't want to be like, hey, can you guys get the garbage? Can you guys do the
Yeah.
dishes? Like, and of course they do, but it's kind of just a weird thing. And I'm like, it
It's a
would have been
weird
so
dynamic.
great to have like like an assistant or a helper, like a
Yeah.
housekeeper, somebody there to help
Yep.
close up the house and make sure everything is good so that we could maintain that just that like high vibe experience that the whole week
Yeah.
had been. Yeah.
Yes, no, no, that's a great tip that everyone needs to know about of absolutely bringing along a helper. And I think also, like you said, being very clear with them on like kind of what the expectations are of the role. Like, so we
Yeah.
have it kind of worked out with our assistants where, depending on how many, I may have one or even two sometimes, depending on how many guests that we have. But it's very clear, like, hey, this is the time that, like, because our helpers help put out breakfast. So, we're not really catering it. We usually go to the grocery store and buy up like ingredients, but we learned over the years now, so we don't waste a bunch of food. We kind of have planned breakfast items that
Hmm.
people can choose from. So like one day might be yogurt parfaits. And so it'll kind of, they get to like build it. And so one of the helpers has to put out like all the bowls and the fruit and have everything kind of out there for the attendees to kind of self assemble. And another day we do like a fancy toast day where they can do avocado toast or
Yeah.
Nutella and bananas and that sort of thing. But someone there has to be there to put it out, to clean
Yeah.
it up, to help with the dishes. I am that person though, I've learned over the years. Like now I'm not, I find a way to make it a little funny, like add some humor in it. But I always say, I'm like, hey, everyone, like, we're all big girls here. And I know it feels like we're kind of on vacation, but we also don't have a dishwasher or a housekeeper here. Like I don't
Right.
want to like my
Yeah.
helper to be like that role. So I'm like, if you guys can just put your glasses in this, in the
Yeah.
dishwasher when you're done or rinse your plate off, it would be so much more helpful. And I'd say like we have maybe a 75% adoption rate of that. There's
Yeah.
still maybe
Yeah.
25 that will just leave it out and they're cleaning, but that's so much more helpful than all of them leaving all their dishes like we're a restaurant, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we've definitely done both. Breckenridge, we had a helper there, and then in Asheville, we had it catered, and it
Mhm.
like the caterer was doing everything, but there were a few instances where the caterer like left before we were done eating, and so then we had to like clean up. And
Do it
for
all.
this
Yeah.
upcoming one, where it's going to be much more of the casual, we're all pitching in, we're all doing it
Yes.
together, and yeah, I think you just kind of have to figure out what works best for your
Right.
group and the people that are coming.
Yeah, and I think like you and I are both encouraging everyone who's listening, like you can ask for help. Like you don't feel like I feel like that can happen for a lot of first time hosts is that they feel like it's the burden's all on them and they have to make sure everyone's having like a 110% excitement experience and
Yeah,
like they almost overextend themselves in all the ways when really they can like kind of actually speak into the attendees and tell them like how they can help and how they can have a great experience, how they can take care of themselves instead of some of the hosts can feel like they're responsible for everything, you know, and the
right.
happiness of everybody. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, I want to like touch on real quick, kind of as we wrap up our conversation. Like, I don't want to miss out on the fact of the topic of what you teach and how you teach people to do VIP days or day rates in their business. And so I'm curious about like if you could go and give, I know this is a much deeper topic than what I'm allowing right now for our
Yeah.
time period, but like someone who has seen that from the sidelines, like what would be kind of some beginning steps of someone who wants to get started, who's like curious of like, hey, like I'm kind of interested in what you're saying here, what can I do to get started in this direction and maybe adding this as a service in my business?
Yeah. Okay. So let me just kind of like preface the whole thing. The reason I started doing day rates in my design business 6 years ago was because I had not scaled, but I had grown my business to a point where I had more clients than time. I was constantly getting requests for work and help, and I had retainer clients, I had ongoing projects, and I had a lot of clients who kept coming back to me wanting more things. I didn't have time to do, I just couldn't figure out how to make it work. And so I kind of reached my breaking point, and one client came back to me needing a whole bunch of things. I had already designed her brand and her like one page website, and she wanted a bunch of updates to her site and a handful of things. And I was at my breaking point. I was like, I can't take on any more work. But oddly enough, even though I had all those clients, I still felt like I wasn't making the income that I for the amount of work I was doing. Like something was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the fact
Mm-hmm.
that all of these ongoing projects were dragging out way longer than expected. There was scope creep out of control. I wasn't getting paid for the projects because they kept getting extended, right? And so I wasn't finishing anything. I was just stuck
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of all of this work. And then I had low paying retainer clients. And so how about you just pay me for a day and I'll get all of this work done and I'll squeeze you in one day next week and blah, blah, blah. And so we did. And like it all of a sudden like clicked that she just paid me for one day of my time, paid in full. And we got all of this work done. She was happy. I was happy because it was done. I didn't have to worry about it anymore. And
Yes.
so I just started pitching that same type of offer to anyone new that would come to me who wanted me to help
Mm-hmm.
them. And what I realized was like, this is way better, way more profitable, way simpler than all of these proposals and projects and retainer clients. And so I eventually like pivoted my whole business to that model. It took me about 9 months to like really transition to doing only day rates as a designer. And then I had a lot of designers and other service providers asking me about it. And so I started teaching the model in 2019. And I've basically been doing that ever since. And so for anyone out there who's at that point in your business where I will say it doesn't really work that well if you're new and you don't have any clients. You really need people who already know, like,
Mm-hmm.
and trust you. Those are the three key things you need to have is know, like, and trust, because clients have to be able to trust you that you're going to get the work done in one day versus that 6 week timeline that
Yeah.
is so standard in freelancer projects. So yeah, like if you have clients and you have people asking you for things all the time and you feel like you're just burning out from all of the work, pitch a day rate and like step one of my framework is experimentation. You have to experiment with this offer before you really know what your perfect VIP day is going to look like,
Mm.
before you worry about having like the shiny sales page or like that perfect VIP day framework. You've got to
Yeah.
just test it out and see how it goes and see what people are responding to, and you kind of get that feedback. And then from there, you'll iterate and refine it and optimize it, make it better. You can come join my program at that point if you want to learn how to do all of those things, because that's
Have
what
it
we
all done for you.
yeah, yeah.
Map
We
it all
have
out for you.
everything
Yeah.
for you inside of
Mhm.
our program, but really it's just about you have to test it out and see how it goes before you'll know for sure.
Yeah. I love that. I love that imperfect progress and experimentation because, like, I'm a
Yeah.
big proponent of those things. And I actually think of a way I experimented one time with something similar. There was a Black Friday promo I ran. It wasn't this year. I think it was the year prior. And it was just like there was three offers that I wanted to include in our Black Friday catalog. And I knew the two, but I needed a third one. And I was like, I'm wondering what I could do here. And I had seen someone else do this, and it was all day Voxer access for just
Yep.
one day. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so I was like, oh, this is fascinating. Like, let me go ahead and try this, And the same thing, like, I was actually proud that I embraced imperfection and was like, okay, like, I like their context. I can follow something similar, be inspired by that. I'm not going to make a fancy sales page. I'm just going to do it, whatever. One person bought it. So one
Uh-huh.
person bought it. So that was good. I mean, it was a win. One person did buy it. But I actually didn't enjoy that particular experience of delivery. And it's not because I don't like the day idea concept, because I think I could do that in a different service offering, but
Hmm.
just the one day of Voxer, I was like on a cold person that I didn't know. Like I
Yeah.
didn't, and I didn't like there were so many things I did wrong. I know in it now that I know your program would tell me to, is there
Yeah.
could have been pre-work and there could have been some stuff ahead, but instead, like, we awkwardly had a conversation back and forth all day long, and she was satisfied in the end, so like that was good. But like on my side, I wasn't satisfied. I was
Yeah.
like, this was kind of like not how I imagined it. Like, I thought
Yeah.
we were just like hit the ground running, like be ready to go, but I had to like pull information out. And so there was so much I learned from the experience, and I also learned what I do like and what I don't like. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was
Yeah,
the whole thing.
the pre-work is key. And the other thing
Yeah.
I will say is a lot of people come into my program and they're like, I don't want to do a full day. I just want to sell half days. And
Mm.
that is one of the things I'm like, you can't just sell a half day to a brand new client you've never worked with, because it takes a while to like even get into like
Yeah.
a rhythm with a client. And you'll be like just getting into a groove with the client and then your half day is up, right? Because
Yeah.
takes, it's one of those things like you start this, the day starts off like, okay, we're getting this, we're figuring it out. And then as the day goes on, it gets faster and faster and faster. And you start like cranking out more and more stuff, but it always starts a little slow. So I'm like, you have to do at least a full day with a new client, because you need that full day to really get the momentum and actually achieve some sort of transformation or result that you can be proud
Yeah.
of as a
Yeah.
business owner. Yeah.
Oh, so good. So good. Well, tell me, or tell everyone listening, like, where can they go learn more about you, learn more about day rates, and kind of all that you have to offer?
Yeah, everything is on my website. It's at sarahmasci.com. I have freebie. As of right now, I have a freebie on there. I have a program called Day Rate Quick Start, and it's what I was talking about. It's like the experimentation. It's just a low ticket, easy way to test it out, see if you like it. And then we do have our full program, our 12-month coaching program. And then we have the mastermind. It's not open for enrollment right now, but I do, as long as you're on my email list and you're kind of in my sphere, you'll hear about openings for our mastermind and our upcoming retreats.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm going to link everything in the show notes so everyone has that, and everyone can go follow you online and learn more about all that you have to offer. And I cannot wait to see your next retreat in Tahoe, because that's a personal favorite of mine, that area. I went to college at the University of Nevada, Reno. So right
Okay.
down the road, like that's
Yep.
only like 30 minutes down the mountain.
Yep.
And so I spent a lot of time in Tahoe when I was in my college years. So I love that
Oh
area.
yeah. Well, you have to like, you'll have to message me and tell me like what is the not miss, what are the can't miss things, because
I
it's my
know.
first time going, but one of our mastermind clients lives in Sacramento. And so
Oh, nice. So
she's been
close
there.
too.
Yeah, she's like, we
Well,
have to
I'll
go to
tell you right
Tahoe.
now, while everyone's listening, in case anyone wants to plan a Tahoe retreat, you need to raft. It's more of a float than a rafting. It's not whitewater rafting, but the Truckee River
Okay,
is a
I've heard of
super
it.
fun summer activity. The water is freezing cold, but you can be in a raft while you do it.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's just neat to see all the pine trees and the landscape. And it's like a fun little, like, easy float to do for a couple hours. So I know that's like one thing that needs to be on your list.
Okay, I will. I'll put it down on the list. Thank you. This has
I
been
love
so
it.
great. Thanks, Amber.
So great. Thank you, Sarah, for being on the show. And like I said, I'll have all the links below for everyone to check you out.
Thank you. Bye.